I'm Aiden Vieras, 34, cybersecurity consultant specializing in smart home systems. I build digital fortresses for a living, which is ironic because apparently I forgot to lock mine. I'd just gotten back from Tokyo. 10 days straight of tech expos, red-eye flights, and so much matcha I'm still vibrating. All I wanted was a quiet night with reheated dumplings and no one asking me for system audits. Instead, I got Oksana. She was waiting for me on her porch. Gray hair in a perfect twist, arms crossed like a judgmental gargoyle. Oksana's 70, retired aerospace engineer, and the kind of neighbor who still reads thermal patterns off her weathered drone for fun. She looked at me over the railing and said, deadpan, "There was screaming coming from your house. 3 nights ago, maybe 4, sounded surgical." I froze. I asked what kind of screaming. She paused, then said, "The kind you don't mistake for a movie." I laughed, because what else do you do when your 70-year-old neighbor says your house screamed while you were gone? "That's not possible," I told her. "I've been out of the country." My house was locked tighter than a biotech vault. She didn't smile, didn't blink. Well, something was in there, and it wasn't quiet. Then she turned around and went back inside, leaving me there, keys in hand, suitcase at my feet, wondering how a house designed to be unbreakable might have just betrayed me. I stepped inside, and immediately something felt wrong. Not broken, not messy, just off. The air smelled like ozone and lemon disinfectant, like a lab, not a living room. The lights flicked on as usual. The AI responded to my presence like it always does, but the silence wasn't empty. It was staged. The kitchen counters gleamed. My fridge was humming, but softer than usual, like it had just been reset. There were containers inside I didn't recognize, labels I didn't write. One of them said, "Reagent A, keep below 3 degrees C." I don't own anything that needs chilling below 3 degrees C, except maybe soda. Then I saw the floors, polished, smooth, and not just vacuumed. They'd been stripped, resealed, and buffed. That's when I knew someone had been here, someone who cleaned like they were prepping for inspection, not comfort, not habit. This wasn't just a tidy-up. This was procedural. I climbed the stairs, slowly, half expecting a noise, a person, something, but all I found was a perfectly made bed, hospital corners, sheets tucked with military precision, pillows fluffed. The blanket folded at a 45-degree angle. I don't make my bed. I don't even own matching pillowcases. And here it was, my bedroom arranged like a sterile showroom. That's when it hit me, this wasn't a break-in. This wasn't random. It was deliberate. I thought about the security logs, the biometric access data. None of it had flagged an entry. Unless someone had the override code. And there was only one person alive who ever had it. My mother. There's a reason I hadn't spoken to my mother in 2 years. It wasn't a fight. Not really. It was more like a fracture that never healed. She called it a divergence of values. I called it tampering with people's DNA in your garage. Her name is Maris Vieras. Used to be a name in cellular bioethics. Had her own lab, her own funding, even a TED Talk on post-genomic compassion. Then she went rogue. Started showing up at underground forums with slides on non-consensual genetic hierarchies. Said the government was coding health access into our chromosomes. That the real pandemic wasn't a virus, but compliance algorithms embedded into medical trackers. People laughed at first, until she published data that wasn't supposed to exist. She lost her license, her funding, her platform. And instead of fading away, she doubled down. Said she'd start her own system. A network outside the state, volunteer-based, open-source ethics, biohealing for everyone. I told her it was dangerous. She told me I was a coward. That was the last real conversation we had. She walked out of my apartment, looked back once, and said, "One day you'll realize compliance is the real virus." Now here I was, standing in a bedroom someone else had made, surrounded by a kind of cleanliness that didn't belong to me. And I knew it without question. She'd been here. The question wasn't if she was back. It was what she'd done this time and who else she'd brought with her. I didn't sleep that night. Didn't unpack. Didn't eat. Instead, I reconnected the system. Not the public-facing AI, the one that logs packages and adjusts the thermostat. No, this was my private build. The silent layer. Motion-activated, audio-enabled, 0 notifications unless I say so. 5 new nodes. Entryway, kitchen, living room, hallway, bedroom, all camouflaged. All cloud synced to a secure shell only I could access. No voice commands, no mobile interface, just hard keys and direct encryption. I set it up in under 2 hours. Then I waited. I didn't tell anyone I was home. I let my mother think I was still abroad. Even changed my flight status on the shared calendar, Tokyo to San Diego, 3 more days of fake meetings. And then I left. Rented a capsule hotel downtown. Windowless. Silent, just me and the feed. Night 1, quiet. She came by mid-morning, used the override like she owned it, watered the plants, rearranged the spice rack. Left a folded towel on the couch. Mildly invasive, but nothing illegal. Nothing I could prove mattered. Night 2 started the same. Then at 11:47 p.m. the front door opened. Not her. A tall man stepped inside, mid-40s, athletic, carrying a duffel bag. He moved like he knew the place. Didn't pause, didn't hesitate. Went straight into the kitchen, opened a drawer, pulled out a mug. 2 minutes later, a woman arrived. Then another man. No knocking, no speaking, just entry, deliberate, familiar. I stared at the feed, watching strangers make themselves at home in a home that wasn't theirs. And the worst part, none of them even looked surprised to be there. At first, I thought it might be a meeting, a weird, late-night community thing, some kind of holistic therapy circle or grief support group. But then the lights dimmed. Music started, low, rhythmic. Synth tones calibrated to mimic neural syncing patterns. Someone lit a candle. Another person rolled out what looked like a medical mat, and then I saw it. A woman unzipped a silver case. Inside, vials, tubes, portable genetic samplers. A dermal injector, an on-site blood analyzer. This wasn't a meeting. This was a clinic, a rogue, mobile, biohacking clinic, set up in my living room. I kept watching. In the corner, my bookshelf camera caught someone unfolding a collapsible ring light. Another was laying out binders with color-coded case files, handwritten, not digital. The man who'd come in first, he was guiding someone through deep breathing exercises before drawing blood from their wrist. Then I saw her, my mother. Mari's Vera's, lab coat, calm, almost radiant. She walked in like it was her home, like none of this was abnormal. She hugged 2 people, whispered something to a woman clutching a small cooler, then turned to the man with the duffel and nodded. "Let's begin the upload," she said. He pulled out a wearable, something like a neural sync band, attached it to a young man's temple. And for a moment, I thought I heard the words, non-consensual markers being flushed. My hands went cold. Because what they were doing wasn't just illegal. It was dangerous, experimental, unregulated. She wasn't treating them. She was rewriting them, all under my roof. And I realized then she hadn't just borrowed my house. She'd turned it into a biotech sanctuary, a place to test the system she was too controversial to publish. A place where the laws couldn't follow, because she'd made sure no one knew. Not even me. I closed the laptop. Not out of panic, out of certainty. Because there was no more guessing, no more maybes. My mother had turned my house into a rogue biomedical site. A genetic correction zone, operating outside every known legal and ethical boundary. And she'd done it without my consent, without anyone's consent. I stared at the screen, at the paused footage, her face lit by low light, eyes steady, hands moving like she'd never stopped being a scientist. But I knew what I had to do. I didn't call her. I didn't warn her. I submitted a Level 3 violation report directly to the Haven Reach security network. Attached footage, geotags, time-stamped biometric records, and then I waited. 4 hours later, I got the alert. Compliance breach detected. Authorities en route. Estimated arrival, 17 minutes. I didn't know what would happen when they got there, if they'd storm the place, if they'd arrest everyone or just seize equipment. What I did know was that it would end, and it did. The next day, I got a call from an ethics officer named Trujillo. He thanked me for reporting what he called a Category Red subterranean operation. Said I'd probably saved lives. I asked if anyone got hurt. He paused. Not physically, he said. But these people trusted something they didn't understand. That always leaves damage. Then came the hardest part. My mother called, not frantic, not angry, calm, quiet, like she already knew. You turned me in. I didn't have a choice, I said. Of course you did. You just picked the law over your own blood. No, I picked safety over secrecy. Because whatever you think you're fixing, you're doing it by trespassing into other people's bodies. And mine. Silence. Then she said, You told me once your house made you feel safe. I was just trying to give that to others. And I said, Then maybe you should have started by not breaking into mine. She didn't respond, didn't hang up, just went quiet. That was the last time we spoke. It didn't make the news, not really. There was a short bulletin buried under local enforcement notes. Unlicensed biotech activity, shut down in residential sector. No formal arrests, investigation ongoing. No names, no blame, just a quiet erasure, like it never happened. But I knew better. My house, the place I built with layered encryption, fingerprint entry, M shielding, facial pattern alerts. It had been breached not by hackers, not by criminals, but by people I used to call family. I stayed there for one more night, one last night, not to make peace, not for closure, just to see if the walls still remembered me. They didn't. The sensors were still tuned to unfamiliar heat signatures. The AI hesitated when it said my name. The fridge inventory still had someone else's nutrition profiles stored. It wasn't mine anymore, so I sold it. Quietly, off-market, no listings, no farewell dinner, no key under the mat. I moved to a low-tech zone in downtown Havenreach. An old studio built before smart grids, where the lights flicker when it rains. And I lock the door with an actual key. And for once, that's enough. They tried to contact me. Once, maybe twice, blocked numbers, no voicemail. Eventually, it stopped. There wasn't a grand finale, no apology, no catharsis, just a slow silence stretching further every day. I used to think family meant a safe place to land. Now I know it's not where you land. It's who respects your boundaries when you say, this is mine. Some people say I overreacted. Others say I didn't go far enough. But I'll ask you, if someone turned your home into something you didn't recognize, if the people who raised you crossed the line, not just legally, but intimately, would you let it go? Or would you finally lock the door for good? Let me know in the comments.